but that is not mandatory. Clear? Yeah, I'll go through Trailhead today. Richa, how many points you are having in a Trailhead?
What?
How much score you have in a Trailhead?
Uh, I don't remember the score, but I think I have more than 400 batches.
So then 400 badges means you are a double star ranger.
Yes.
Oh, great. Means like you did all the flow super badges and everything.
I don't think I have done like flow super batch, but
Hmm.
earlier when I was learning Salesforce, I did everything at that time. I haven't got chance to like work on Trailhead in recent years.
Mm-hmm. So like how many super badges you have approximately?
I think two maybe.
You need to work more on super badges if you get a time.
Yeah.
I mean, so like from the super badges only we'll learn a lot. So mostly like coming to the trailhead, I won't work for points. Like I'll work upon super badges mostly. I'll be having around 26 super badges, I think. Not sure,
Oh,
like it's for sure it is 25 above.
that's good.
Yeah, you also try to work upon super badges. Like we'll be having around 16 super badges on flows.
Oh, okay.
I cleared all the super badges of flows. Like you also try to work upon super badges of flows if you get a time. Like
Okay.
it's a demanding skill in a Salesforce for an admins. Okay, focus on that. Like if you stuck anywhere in a flow super badges, let me know. I'll help you on that at
Okay.
any time. Okay, so today we'll go through the asynchronous apex. I think I might be finished that concept and my trailhead, though I'll retake the challenge. Actually, I did not prepare code snippets for asynchronous apex. That's why I'm going through Trailhead. On Monday session, I'll be come up with the code snippets for each and every type. So that again, we'll discuss this concept. Okay. But in this session, I'll give you an overview of asynchronous apex. What is asynchronous apex? For integration, also, we'll be having one Trailhead. So I think like this scenario is more than enough to explain you the integration, isn't it? Like I'll take this example only for integration also. Okay, explore the Apex Recept sample app. That is a PD2 syllabus. Okay, okay. I'll go through the asynchronous Apex today. I think I did not uploaded the session also. Okay. So what is asynchronous Apex? Look, whatever the syllabus we saw so far, that comes under synchronous Apex. Like whatever the DML operations we saw, like whatever the SQL we performed, everything is corresponding to the synchronous operations. Means like whenever we click on something, like there we are performing some action, right? All such kind of things comes under synchronous apex. In today's session we are going to discuss asynchronous apex. So asynchronous apex means like if you write some apex class, so that apex class needs to be executed in a background without running the code. It needs to be run in a background. It should be called in a background. So let's suppose sometimes we might have a requirement like whenever we are using the system, like let's suppose one company's working hours might be, let's suppose it is morning 9 a.m. to evening 6 p.m. So all these background operations should not run at the working time. Let's suppose I need to start my automation, like it should run in a background after 7 p.m. to morning 8 a.m. Like that, if you want to schedule some processes, long running processes, will take help of asynchronous apex. Clear? So here, here example, let's say you have a list of things to accomplish before weekly room, because making finance different here something theoretically he explained the concept. It's not that much required. User efficiency, let's say you have a process that makes main, yeah, like coming to the user efficiency, sometimes we might have a long running processes, like we need to archive the records, we need to delete all the inactive accounts which are more than 7 days in a system. Like that, if you want to perform some automation, if this process, if it is runs in a working hours, it might slow down the performance of the system, and it might impact a lot to the real-time environment. To avoid that problem, we can use this asynchronous apex. So one more, like in this way, like by using asynchronous apex, we can execute like we can use the system very efficiently. And one more thing, he specified scalability, why he explained scalability by allowing some features of the platform execute when a resources become, yeah. So scalability means here the what happens is it will check for the resources, available resources. We'll be having concept called governor limits, right? So if all the resources are utilizing, it won't run. If all the resources are available, then only this asynchronous apex will run in a background. Coming to the higher limits, so basically by taking help of synchronous apex, we can query just 50,000 records in a single SOQL query. But by taking help of asynchronous apex, we can query more than 50,000 records. We can query 2 lakhs records also in a single transaction. So limit of asynchronous apex also very high. That is a one more advantage. And here he explained, he gave a table for different types of asynchronous apex. So we'll be having 4 different kinds of asynchronous apexes. One is a future methods, second one is batch apex, next queuable apex, the next scheduled apex. So the purpose of future apex is web service callout. Let's suppose for the frequent intervals, if you want to call a third party website, at the time you can use an future method. So in the here is specified overview, run in their own thread and do not start until resources are available. If the resources are means if the space is available to access a resource, then only this method will run. And when you can remember this one, it is more than enough common scenario when we'll use future methods or future apex. So whenever you want to call a external website, whenever you want to integrate with let's suppose if you want to send a data from Salesforce to external system, or to grab the data from external system to Salesforce, we'll use a future methods. So coming to the batch apex is used to run long running process. So data cleansing or archiving of records. Let's suppose at a time in a Salesforce system, you want to update 2 million records. Let's suppose if you want to insert 2 million records in a Salesforce system, at the time, what you can do? So if you use a synchronous apex, it will hit a DML limits, and it will hit a problem of governor limits. All these records won't be enter in a Salesforce system. To do that, what we can do is we can write a batch class, batch apex. By taking help of batch apex, we can perform bulk jobs. We can perform a lot of records update at a time, or we can delete lot of records at a time from a Salesforce system. Whenever the system resources available, this process will run in a background. Clear?
Yes.
So coming to the queuable apex, so the purpose of queuable apex also similar to feature methods only. So the purpose of feature methods is to call a web service, right? Like to perform web service callouts, like third-party website to call third-party websites. So the problem with feature methods is in a feature methods, we can let's suppose if we want to create an apex class with a feature method, what we need to do is in the feature method, we can use the primitive data types only. We can use integer, strings, floating point values, like that we can use a primitive data types only. But the collections data types are list of collection of another data types, nested data types won't be useful in a feature method. Those are won't be accessible in a feature method. To use a collection data types in place of feature method, to overcome all the drawbacks of feature method, we'll use a queuable apex. Clear? Clear?
Yes.
So the purpose of scheduled apex is, so if you want to perform time-based actions, let's suppose if you want to perform some action daily around after office hours. Let's suppose if you want to perform on Saturday, on weekends, if you want to perform some tasks automatically in a Salesforce system, at the time we'll use schedule apex. You need to understand that stuff from here. Okay. So with these, with the asynchronous apex, what we can do is we can increase governor limits problem, we can overcome the governor limit problem, and all the limits will be high compared to the synchronous apex to the asynchronous apex. So like if in a single like you can see simple example here. For example, number of SQL queries is doubled from 100 to 200 queries when you are using asynchronous apex. So in a single DML transaction, you can perform like you can write in a single apex class you can write in 100 queries in a synchronous apex, whereas in an asynchronous apex we can write double number of queries. The total heap size also you can see, the maximum CPU time, everything will be very high compared to synchronous apex. So ensure fairness of processing, ensure fault tolerance, like these are the things we need to follow while performing asynchronous while using asynchronous apex. So here like I'll go through these challenge, like it's not having, we are not having an option to retake this challenge. Okay, so I'll jump to the next model. This stuff is clear, right, to you now? Richa, fine, everything? So here
Yes.
he like for each and every apex method, like he specified a apex classes and examples. So it is a method corresponding to, it is an example corresponding to feature method, on which cases we need to use feature method and which annotation we need to use while writing a feature method. Everything he explained in this trail. When to use feature method, limitations of feature method, how to use feature method callouts, and feature method best practices. Everything specified in this trail. So if you want to go through, like if you want to go, you can go through this video also. Feature methods. So whenever like we saw the concept called annotations, right? Like if you want to use some feature method, like if you want to define some method, like some apex class with a feature method, we need to use @feature annotation. So if you declare @feature annotation while writing while defining a method, then only it will understand it is like a feature method. Clear? We need to use a feature annotation to define a, like to write a apex class with a feature method. So the use cases, feature methods are typically used for these scenarios. Callouts to external website. If you are making a callouts to triggers or after performing DML operation, you must use a feature method or queuable method. See, you can see beside this feature method, you can see queuable method also. So in place of feature method, if you have a requirement, like you can use a queuable apex also in place of feature method. Like we can see the trigger would be database connection, open lifetime, no, multi-tenant environment. Operation you want to run in their own thread when time permits, such as some sort of resources intensive calculations or processing off record. See, like what happens is operations. Let's suppose if you are like for a external website callouts, we'll use feature method basically. Let's suppose you'll be having data in an third party system. You need to take the data from third party system to Salesforce environment. Let's suppose if you are taking the data, you need to perform some DML operations. So to call an external website, we'll take help of feature method. So whatever the DML operations you want to perform, those DML operations also will takes place while establishing connection itself. That's what he explained in a second point. Isolating DML operations on different subject types to prevent mixed DML errors. Different subject types. This is somewhat of edge case, but you may occasionally run across the issues. So you can see S objects that cannot be used together in a DML operations. So here what he's saying is we can perform DML operations, but what he's saying is in a feature method, while accessing the S objects, we can't perform DML operations immediately. We can't perform both the things in a single transaction. That's what he's saying. Why means the Salesforce system won't understand. Like if you update a record while like integrating immediately, if you perform DML operations, the data will modify, right? So that it won't recognize. That's why we won't perform DML operations while integrating immediately. So it is a syntax. It's a very, very important thing. You can see. So here he is writing a apex class. So public class, some class he is defining. So you can see here feature methods must be static methods and can only return a void type. The specified, see, it is a very, very important thing. It might, you might face this question in an interview also. It must be a static method and it should not contain any return type. Means like it should have a return type like void only. the specified parameters must be primitive data types, as I already told you this thing. So whatever the data you want to define in a Apex class, that should be a primitive data only. Like standard data types only use inside the collection also. Okay, arrays. So you can see the primitive data types, arrays of primitive data types you can use, collection of primitive data types also you can use. Notably, feature methods can't take standard or custom objects as arguments. So we can't use standard objects or custom objects inside these arguments. You need to remember this thing. It's a very, very important thing corresponding to this. A common pattern is to, so we can pass the data inside the list to pass a data, common data. So list of ID also a basic collection, like a basic primitive data type. That's why we can pass an ID. So it's a syntax. So we are defining some class, we are using a feature annotation, and we are defining a method. Public, static, it should be a static method and it should be a void method. These two things are mandatory. Okay, some feature method we are defining here. So while defining the method, you should follow this thing, list of ID. We should not use list of accounts inside this feature method. And here we are taking record IDs, and I'm taking the data corresponding to account, list of accounts, and we are writing a query. So we are querying the account records where record ID is equals to present in this list of IDs. We are querying all those records, and like whatever the operation you want to perform, you can write that logic here. It's a basic syntax for the feature Apex. The reason why objects can't be passed as an argument to feature method is because the object can change between the time you call the method and the time that is actually executes. Remember, feature methods are executed when system resources become available. In this case, the feature method may have an old object value when it actually executes, which can cause all sorts of bad things to happen. Understood why we can't use S object data types in the inside the feature methods? Any one of you understood? Yes, Richa, Prashanti. Understood, or like may I need to cover this? See, simple. So why he did not give an access to a subject means, so time to time, like let's suppose if you consider one account record, there might be a chance of changing the data in an the top record. So let's suppose if you compare like a third party system and our system, like Salesforce system, data might be different. So that like you might, like your system might get confused, like why this data is different, like that. So to avoid that problem, he did not give an access to a subject DML operations at the time. Like let's suppose if you consider account record, so though if you manipulate the data inside the account record, account ID won't be changed, right? Account ID remains same. That's why he is using record IDs kind of things to manipulate the data. So here he specified another example, feature method syntax, like with the sample callout code, like to how to call an external system. For that, he specified a sample callout code. So the SMS message calls and SMS logs object in the example hypothetical as shown only to demonstrate the callout pattern. So to display the callout pattern only, he specified this below code, and will be having SMS log S object in this example he used it. Okay, so he's defining like it is a Apex class which is used to send an automatic SMS to the specific account from an SMS logs. Okay, so it is a class name. In this, like he used at the rate feature annotation. If you want to perform external callouts in these parentheses, you can use a parameter like callout and you can specify it is true. So if it is true, then it will perform external website callouts. Okay, then next here he is defining a method. So the method name is, it should be a static void method, and send SMS asynchronous, it's a method name, and in this he is passing the parameter. So string from number, from which the number he is sending the message, string to number to whom he is sending the number message, and string message, which message you want to send to the user. So here string result, so result would be send SMS. In this, it needs to take these parameters. Debug, like I need to debug the result, like whatever the information present in this, I need to see that information. So call from the controllers, etc., for immediate processing. So again, he defined another method from static string send SMS. So send SMS asynchronous, it is a method, and it is another message. Send SMS is another method. So here also he defined same parameters, and here he is using send message class. In this will be having send method. In this, like he is passing the parameters, and insert new SMS log. Like here he is inserting one record in this specific object, and he is returning the result. It's a simple example he specified for external website callouts. So to write a test class, like we can use a different methods. In these, like he specified like start test and stop test method. So like previously in while explaining test classes, at the rate test annotation we used, right? Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's suppose if you want to write a test class, let's suppose to check a test class, let's suppose if you want to insert like 1 lakh records. At the time, if you take help of synchronous apex, what happens? At a time, we can perform 50,000 DML operations only. It will hit governor limits and it won't insert all the records in a system. In a test class also, it won't accept. It will follow governor limits. To avoid that problem, what we can do is, let's suppose if you want to check all the methods, like all the scenarios, let's suppose in a first apex class, like in a first method, we need to query 50,000 records. In a second method, I need to query 50,000 records. Like that, we might have a different portions. At the time, to avoid governor limit problem, what we can do is we can use these two methods. Start test is a method. Whenever your governor limit starts, whenever you specify start test method, you can specify this method before starting a method, so that all your governor limits set up to 0, all the governor limits will be resetted. And whenever this method completes, at the end of the method, you can use this method, this function stop test, so that whenever you start test, like all the governor limits will be set to 0, and whenever you set stop test, this will be complete. Again, it will start freshly. Understood? Understood? Clear or
Yes,
not?
got it.
Yeah, that's a very important method. It's a very important method. And he specified a test class for the above code. Like for the future method, like how you need to write a test class, he specified that code. So above code is the sample callout code, and like there is a fake code only, normal code only, but that is a callout code. And to test this functionality, whether this callout is working or not, here he is writing a test class. At the rate is test annotation he is using, and like with the same class name, he is using like apex callout. So here you can see, whenever you want to write a test class for a feature method, we need to use an implements, like we need to use an HTTP callout mock interface. We are using this interface, and here we are sending a response, and like we are writing all the methods. Charging alert. Okay, so like he's passing all these parameters and he's checking this apex class. With this, in this way, we can check a test class, and it is a send SMS class. Like in a test class, like how to check the above class. So to check the above class, what we need to do, we need to pass a from and where address, and we need to pass a message. And see here, you can see he's using start test and stop test. See, while calling this method, he's saying class name dot start test, test dot start test, and he's ending stop test. Means like all the governor limits will be refreshed prior to this, and from here freshly, like limits will like everything will start freshly, like governor limits will start freshly. Again, like if you want to check another condition, again you can use this thing for another method. Okay, so after that we are checking that method. So like if the message will send, this flag will is set to 1. So if it is 1 and log size is 1, like we are sending one message only, right? So it will become true. Like that, here also this assertion will comes. So in this way, we can check. So what are the things we need to follow while defining a feature method? So these are the best practices you need to follow while defining this method. Things to remember while doing these. So get method name, set method name, parameters you can use. So get method name is a function which is used to get the data from any external website. Set method name is a method which is used to modify the parameters. Like if you want to replace the parameters or if you want to update the parameters, at the time we can use a set method. Get content as PDF, like that. Here will be having different methods. If you want to use, you can use it. So you can go through this challenge. I can retake this challenge. So here he specified an example and he told you to implement an Apex class. Try to implement this functionality. It would be very similar to the above code only. So what he said is, so create a field on an account object with the name, number of contacts. So it should be a number data type. This field will hold the total number of contacts for an account. Okay. The next number type. Okay. And the next, create an Apex class with the name account processor. Method name should be like, it should contain a method, count contacts method it should contain. And the method must accept a list of account IDs. So for that, you need to define a list of account IDs, and you can use an @feature annotation inside this. Okay. So the method counts the number of contact records associated to each account ID, pass it to the method, and update the number of contacts field with this value. So it's very similar to the updating an record. Okay, but you should not write any trigger. Okay, so you need to establish this functionality. Can you able to do this? Can you able to try this for today? Don't worry. Like if you won't be able to do it, like I'll explain you this thing how to do that. But can you able to try it at least? Same thing, like in a top itself, he specified an example. If you go to the top, he specified an example of the same. Not this example. This example you can see. Dummy class he specified, right? This one is a very similar example. But here some feature method, you need to write a method with the name he specified, and you can take same parameters inside it, and you need to query the, like you need to write a parent to child query. In this, you need to write an aggregate query on a contact, and you need to store the data in a one field. After storing the data, what you can do is, like you can update that field value. On that way, you need to implement this method. After implementing that method, by looking at this test class, which is given in the bottom, you need to write a test class for this. Can you able to try this? Yes, no, or something? You need to try. You should try it. If you won't get it, I'll explain you tomorrow. Not tomorrow, on Monday session. Okay. Richa, is it fine?
Yes.
Yeah, you can try it. You'll get to know while practicing it. So coming to the batch Apex, it's a very, very important thing. Like in this, we need to use a batchable interface. And while using this interface, like it contains 3 different methods: start method, execute method, and finish method. So coming to the start method, whenever you want to query some Salesforce data, like you can write that queries in a start method. Whenever you use a start method, execution of the code will be starts. Like whenever you call an execute method, whatever the DML operations you want to perform, that will be executed on that execute method. So coming to the finish method is used to send any, like after completing all the transaction, if you want to send any email kind of actions, that will be performed whenever you call a finish method. Okay, so where to use a batch Apex, the higher Apex limits when using batch Apex syntax, everything is specified in this trail. So batch Apex. So let's suppose if you want to perform bulk jobs, let's suppose if you want to perform DML operations on huge number of records, millions of records. Let's suppose if you want to delete thousands of records, lakhs of records from a Salesforce system, will take help of batch Apex. Clear? So whenever you want to use a batch Apex, we need to use a database.batchable interface. Like it will take a specific interface that is a batchable interface. So whenever you want to write a asynchronous Apex, asynchronous batch Apex, you need to implement it any class with a database.batchable interface. After that, like it should have a start method. Here he explained what is when it is used. So start method is used to collect the records. Like let's suppose if you want to collect the records from a Salesforce database, at the time we'll use a start method in this interface, database.batchable interface itself. So in this, like this method is called once in the beginning of batch class. The start method is used at the beginning of any batch apex, and apex jobs and returns either database dot query locator object or an iterable object contains the records of. Sorry, my internet got disconnected. I don't know why it is disconnected. Sorry for the interruption. When it is disconnected, 1 minute back only, right? Okay. So coming to the batchable interface, like it will be having database data, like sorry, batch apex, it will be work on batchable interface, database that batchable interface. In this, the at the starting will be having start method. The start method will be executed at the starting of apex class, batch class, and it contains a database that query locator. So in this database that query locator, whatever the query you want to write, you need to write that query. 5 minutes. So you need to write that query in a database.query locator method. Why means, like let's suppose if you write a static like synchronous query, SQL query, we can query just to 50,000 records. But if you write a query by taking help of database.query locator method, you can query 2 lakhs records at a time. So it is about like a start method. Okay, and in this we'll be having query locator method. I'll show you with an example so that you'll be understand much clearly. So after that, see here, you can see, sorry, like I said, just 2 lakhs, right? You can see up to 50 million records we can query by taking help of query locator method. Okay, like it won't follow the governor limits problem. So the governor limit for the total number of records retrieved by a SQL query is still enforced. Like we are crossing that thing. Clear? So the next after start method will be having execute method. So after collecting the data from a Salesforce system, so if you want to perform any DML operations on a data, at a time, how many DML operations we can perform? Just in a single transaction, we can perform like I think 200, like we can modify 200 records at a time. I think I did not remember the exact value. So in this, in an execute method, like as we can query 50 million records, right? So what we can do is like in a 50 million records, we can't process all the records at a time. We can't apply all the DML operations at a time. In the execute method, we'll be having parameter like batch size. By default, in an execute method, if you don't specify the batch size, at a single transaction, it will take 200 records at a time. Like that, 200, 200, 200, it will process all the 50 million records. Like how many records you want to process, it will take all the records in the group of 200 records. And like you can take this record size, like let's suppose if you have more and more records, you can increase the batch size also. By default it is 200, you can increase it to 400 also. Up to 1000 you can keep as a batch size. Okay, like that you can specify. So like whenever you want to call this execute method, you can call this execute method in a database.batchable context. Okay, the next finish method. So the finish method is used to execute post processing operations. After finishing all the DML operations, if you want to send any external emails kind of things, at the time we'll use a finish method. Understood? So in a batch apex, how many methods we are having? Start, execute, finish. Start method is used to collect the data by taking help of asynchronous query, that is dynamic query. After that, execute method is used to perform a DML operations. By default, like at a single transaction, it will be considered batch size like 200. If you want to increase the batch size, you can take up to 1000. The next execute method, which is used to perform post-processing operations. After performing all the DML operations, if you want to perform some operations, you can take help of this thing. And it is about the example. So, okay, from this here onwards, I'll explain you in the next session. My laptop battery is going to die. Okay, in the next session, I'll be come up with an examples also. I'll go through these trails and I'll explain you the examples also. If you get a time, you can complete this challenge also. It's also 500-point challenge. It's also a very good challenge. You can go through it. Okay, so on Monday session, for sure, I'll take 2 sessions. Don't worry about that. Okay,
Okay.
clear? Okay, done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.